Townhouse prices in Calgary are going to get smacked. The benchmark price for a townhouse right now is $439,600. It is down $6,600 from last month and $22,000 from last year. Now, if you look on the bottom left here, our peak price was June 2024, where we were at 464,000. We're down around $25,000 from that. With the blanket rezoning and the city expanding, I'm pretty confident that the upper end prices of Calgary in the townhouse market is going to drag down this benchmark attribute, just because it's going to be a lot of them coming to the market. Now, my name is Adam Fyfe, your Calgary real estate agent. If you want more information, like I state in every other video, go ahead and click the links in the description and go and get some free value. Couple of new things here. The PDF reports now include community pricing. So if you want to go townhouses and you want to look what your townhouse is doing in your specific community, you can scroll through, go through all of the different quadrants of Calgary and find your community. You want to know what your townhouse is worth? Awesome AI evaluation tool. Me and my team are going to reach out to you. If you want to know what your neighbors are actually selling for, this is also a free tool on my website. This is my personal website. And I will now have this access for those of you who've used the AI evaluation tool or who just want to have this set up on your behalf. It's free to do. It's very simple. It can be automated emails, or it can be just a search that you look at every once in a while. That's fine. If you want to go search the MLS, if you want to book a time to have a conversation and get into this market in a little bit more detail, go ahead. The links are in the description. I promise I'm pretty easy to talk to. And thank you very much for everyone who's done so. Now, with that in mind, let's go and read what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about townhouses. Sales in August slowed, contributing to the year-to-date decline of nearly 16%. While new listings did ease in August compared to last year and last month, they have generally been on the rise, pushing up inventory levels. In August, there were 1,100 units in inventory, reaching the second highest level on record for August, only slightly lower than the record high reported in 2018. Due to the relatively strong sales, the months of supply has only pushed slightly above 3 months, far more balanced than last year, but not as high as the 6.4 months reported back in 2018. Nonetheless, additional supply choices have weighed on prices. In August, the unadjusted benchmark price for the city was $439,600, reflecting the fourth consecutive monthly decline and nearly 5% lower than last August. While prices eased across all districts, price declines exceeded 5% in Northeast, North, South, and East districts. These districts generally reported high levels of supply in resale sector or had significant competition from new home supply. So again, just breaking it down, figuring out which quadrants are the most active, which quadrants are seeing the most price reductions, and which quadrants are maybe seeing those stabilizations, right? As a whole, we have been on a pretty consistent downwards trend in price, right? Going from the highs that we saw in June to now the lows that we've seen in quite some time. You can see that the inventory levels are elevated, especially compared to last year, right? August, September, October, we only had 600 to 800 units left over at the end of the month. Now we have almost 1,200 units, just a lot more selection. When you're looking at the sales, right? The sales are relatively similar to what we saw last year. So like it even said in the description, there's still demand. There's still demand for townhouses. There's still a demand for affordable product here in Calgary, but there's just a lot more selection to choose from, which means that you just have to be a little bit sharper on your list price if you plan on going to the market, right? Now, with that in mind, let's start to break this down in a little bit more detail. Again, this is year to date in August. This is just showing what the sales activity is doing for the city as a whole. We're well above that 10-year trend, right? We could see, year to date in the last recession that we saw was 2015 to 2020. We only had not even 2,000 sales. Now we're above 2,500 sales. So again, still strong activity in this market. Yes, we've slowed down from some of the craziness that we've seen over the last few years, but we're still seeing movement. This is going to be a fascinating chart in about a year. So obviously the most affordable price point is the $400,000, right? Which is the comfortable, you still get some really nice features and benefits. It's in decent areas. It's going to be the most active, most attractive price point. But with the new rezoning that's happening, we're going to see quite a few $600,000 and $700,000 units, quite a bit of 500,000 as well, depending on how luxurious these builders are making these townhouses as they come to the market. They're all going to have basement suites. It's all going to be multi-unit, multi-level, right? It's going to be interesting to see just the increase in the sales in these barcodes here going into a next year or two. So when we look at the new listings, right? The new listings have been on a rise, right? This is what really kind of shot off our price point in 2023, which is not having as many units to choose from. Now we're seeing more and more, and this is probably going to increase as the years progress, right? Calgary's getting bigger. We're noticing a lot more activity coming to the market, as well as the rezoning. There's probably going to be multiple units coming to the market at the same time, right? It's not going to be just one. It's probably going to be at least 2 or 3 from those developments. So it'll be interesting to see how this new listing stat continues to increase over the next couple of years. Now, months of inventory, right? We've been fairly stable at, let's call it 3.5 months of supply over the last 3 months. We're probably going to see that increase going into the winter, which is quite common. You can see we're on that trajectory. So yes, we have seen an increase over, Q1, Q2, but now we're seeming at this point to find some stabilization a bit. But with that in mind, as this rezoning actually comes into effect, literally at the end of this month, going into October, November, we're going to see an influx of new listings come to the market. Now, unless builders are smart, in a sense, not all of them, but some of them that might just push it off till the spring. They might try to rent it out for the winter, do like a 6-month lease agreement. Not a lot of people like doing that because then it's not really a new unit anymore. So it will be interesting to see how the majority of these developers go and put their listings on the market, because if a lot of them dump listings on the market, they're going to hurt themselves in the resale value, at least in my opinion. Now, with this in mind, here's the same information numerically. Now, I just like this number here. I guess just these 3 down here. These numbers, right? It's 40 days on market is the average townhouse sale in Calgary. It's going to differ throughout all quadrants, but the average, you can see the benchmark price, like we mentioned, is almost 340, down quite a bit from month prior, right? You can see even just last year, right? June, that was our highs. We're down significant amount, $25,000, right? The median price, 435. The average price is 459. So you can see we were averaging 485, 460s. Now we're starting to dip down. It's probably going to continue to drop with the average as well as the benchmark going into the winter, which is, again, very common case, right? Now, when we start to look at the months of supply, right, this is a really good indicator to just how fast these markets are moving, how much absorption are they having. And you can just see here, if we just zoom in a little bit, well, I don't want to actually. Okay, so 3 months of supply, right? 4 months of supply. It's a kind of like a balanced market territory in general. It depends if you go in or you go out, depending on how the direction of it is going. But for the most part, it's balanced. You can still see that there's quite a few quadrants that are still, seller's balanced territory, right? You've got your city center, your southeast, your south. You've got your west and your northwest, all still in that seller's balanced territory. Now, obviously, we're seeing slowdowns. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, they're doing a lot better than some other quadrants like northeast. Right, northeast, again, for apartments as well as townhouses, you can see that they're above 6 months. So if anything, the biggest price differences are going to be noticed in the northeast, given the fact that they are the slowest market in Calgary. And we'll talk about the benchmark prices in a second, but it is pretty crazy to see 6 months of supply. We haven't seen that in a very long time. City average back in 2018, like we mentioned, was 6.4 months. And we're at that city average already for just the northeast quadrant. Okay, so when we look at price comparables, again, just kind of indicating, some of that biggest price decreases, about 7% year over year, was in the northeast. You can also see East Calgary seeing some pretty big declines as well. Now, you got to remember they're very different products, right? East Calgary is going to be a lot older. It might not be as nice as the northeast. They might not have as much inventory, but it's just a different product, right? Northeast is going to have a lot more new construction, a lot more options for people to choose from, but they're still seeing those price decreases at a pretty significant rate. Okay. Now, again, just want to bring to your attention, super cool, very easy, free to use, sold listings in your area. If you want to go and figure out what the sold listings of your neighbors are, let me help you. Let me help you look at that. And at the same time, if you want to know what your unit is worth today, I have people using this every single month, right? And that's cool. It's totally fine. Let's go and find out what exactly is happening for your specific unit. I've got a lot of investors out there, a lot of people that just want to understand what their equity is doing, because they might have a mortgage renewal coming up and they want to know exactly what to prepare for, right? How much is that going to cost you? What does that look like if you wanted to maybe pull some equity, do some renovations, whatever, right? Go ahead, scan the QR code. Now, with that in mind, you can see that the Northeast, again, I said 7%, but it's actually 8.7%, at least in this chart. And there actually are some discrepancies here. So the Northeast actually hasn't. Calgary Real Estate Board, what is going on here? Okay, now I'm starting to notice these things more and more and more. This does not hit 8% here. Oh, that's total res. Oh, geez, look at that. I made a mistake live on air. Why did they do that? Anyways, that was my own mistake because the row was on the far right, and then I looked at this one and I looked at the far right. That's total residential. This makes more sense. 8.7% right there. So I am human. My apologies. So with that in mind, we go back down here. You can see 8.7%, right, for the Northeast year-over-year loss. Maybe I should be doing some actual losses here as well, not just the month-to-month. But you can see some of the losses are quite significant, even month-over-month, right? $11,000 for the benchmark attributes for City Center, and then $7,100 before that for previous month. 8,400, right? 74, 82. So the average is 66, which is actually pretty crazy that we are noticing these slowdowns. Now, normally going into this winter season, we would notice slowdowns, but couple that with a lot of the uncertainties of this market, you know, mortgage renewals coming up, lots of different things happening in Calgary. This is not overly surprising to see, but we're probably going to continue to see this trend moving forward. Again, talking about that months of supply, you can still see some of those quadrants, 2.7, 2.46, 2.73, still in seller's balance territory, still making moves, even though we are noticing price reductions in those quadrants as well. Again, breaking it down individually for your own personal quadrant is very important. Now, we are going to stay in the negatives for quite some time. How long? It's hard to say. You can see 2020, we stayed in the negatives for about a year and let's call it a year, right? I have had people say, oh, it's going to be down here for 2 years. I think that we will see some stabilization at some point. Calgary is still a hot spot. There's still people wanting to move here. There's still people looking to get into our market. There's still investors looking to invest into this market. I speak to them personally, and there's still some movement here. There's still some excitement for Calgary. I think we're going to stay down here for a little while. I don't know how long, but I don't think it's going to be forever. And I don't think we're going to see a crash, but we might see a correction, right? Townhouses in Calgary is probably going to be the first one to see that correction. Now, a correction is a 10% pullback. Right now, we're at 5.8, I believe it was, from those peak highs that we saw in June of 2024. I could absolutely see a 10% pullback. I could see a 12, 13% pullback, which is definitely in correction territory. 20% crash. Are we going to reach there? I don't know. I doubt it, but I digress. Now, with that in mind, these are numbers from the month, like the monthly report from August. We are almost halfway through September. So what we want to do is just look at how September's doing, right? We want to look at the active pending solds. One of the things that Calgary real estate, they don't do very well in the reports is they don't actually show the withdrawn, expired and terminated, which is a little upsetting because I would love to see that data. Like how many homes are actually coming off the market, right? What did they aim for? How much were they? And what happened and why didn't they actually sell? So if we look at like just a quick little tubular here, right? You can see some averages here. You can see the average that were expired was around 459, terminated 34, sorry, and then 442, right? We could dive into this in a lot more detail during a private call, but I would love to see the Calgary Real Estate Board just encompass this somehow, right? Just talk about it because this is a very real aspect of the market when diving into it. And this is something that we would go into personally when you want to go into a certain community. As an example, I'm just going to hit Hamptons, just as an example. You can see 11, right? And we go and we throw them in for just the beginning of the month. There's actually nothing there for Hamptons. But either way, I'm not going to dive into that. I'm actually going to go here to here, which I would like to do here. I like to do here, here, and here, and look at what is going on just for this specific. Oh, what did I do? Why is it confused? I broke it. This is the problem with doing this live on air. Let's see if I can do that again, because I did this before. Okay, 476, perfect. So where I wanted to go with this is we're still showing balanced territory markets. We're not shifting in any crazy direction at this time, right? Active, new to the market since the beginning of the month, 265 new units, right? Now, out of those 265, it would be, we'd have to pinpoint it, but pending from the 1st to the 12th is 96, and sold, which could mean that they were obviously pending last month, was 115. So when you look at this, just the active versus sold, right, you're looking at around 40% sales to new listings ratio. So it's kind of in alignment with what we're seeing right now. You got pending of, I think it was 96. So if you add the two, it's 211, right? Again, halfway through the month, we're gonna see what happens at the end of the month, but we're actually pretty much on track to see similar numbers to what we saw in August. Now, this is just an estimation, and this is a quick overview of what's going on in the townhouse market, but there's really nothing too significant here that shocks me, right? We're still seeing a lot of activity. We're still seeing 100 people go pending. We have had 115 sold since the beginning of the month. But again, talking about that inventory, we still have 265 that have come on the market at the beginning of the month and are not pending yet, So with that in mind, that's a lot. I hope this isn't too long for you, but I appreciate it. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out. I appreciate all the comments and the love and the hate. So go ahead, reach out, let me know what your thoughts are, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.